All right, ladies and gents, we are finally ready to take our plate onto paper. It's very exciting. A couple things you're gonna need to have with you when you're getting ready to block print. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have blueprint or some sort of newspaper underneath where you're working, just to preserve the tables a little bit. You obviously need your plate that you've carved. You need this lovely thing called the brayer. Then you need this lovely thing called the baron. You can also use a full printing press. Just because of the size of our pieces, we're about 5 by 7. We'll just use this lovely little baron today. You are gonna need something to put your ink on. I've got really old and brittle linoleum actually that I'm gonna use as my inking plate, but you could even use anything like a shiny ceramic tile that you find, piece of glass, any of those types of things, just something that's not gonna absorb the ink. You are going to need a scratch piece of paper in order to pull your first proof and see what kind of plate you have carved, and Sports Illustrated for reading material. Just kidding. We'll do this so that way it'll keep our area neat and tidy as we work. This is something I found from another teacher's demo that I was like, brilliant. So we're taking that great idea and rolling with it. First thing I'm gonna do when I am getting ready to print is I'm gonna put my ink down, okay? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right along the top of this. Now, you'll notice this is lovely oily, so that could be kind of fun to deal with. I'm not gonna put a ton, and I'm gonna purposely put it right in a strip, so when I pull it down with my brayer, I've got a lot of room. Because I have some of that stuff, I might actually see if I can just let it run off to the side just a little bit. Okay, but then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my brayer to pull this ink down, and I'm first gonna go a couple times, and then I'm gonna go side to side. And when I'm taking my ink down, okay, what I'm doing is I'm listening. If I don't hear this kind of getting a sticky, catchy sound, like right now, I've got too much ink on there. So what I do is I go a little lower, okay, and I leave some of that ink behind. So then when I'm going side to side here, I'm making sure that I have the even amount on my brayer that I'm working from here. When I hear that sound, that means I'm at a really good spot for the ink that I've got on here. If I don't hear that sound, I have too much ink, and that's actually gonna go deeper into my plate than I need it to. So now that I've got my brayer inked up, then I take my lovely plate and I ink this bad boy up, okay? I'm gonna go side to side, top to bottom. Again, the reason why I have this blueprint, okay, is so that way when I go off, it doesn't hit my table, doesn't hit other areas. Some people actually ink this up on the magazine too, which I was like, oh, that's brilliant, okay. If I start to see it get too dry on here, like this area, then I know I actually haven't pulled enough. So again, I'll actually go up towards the top and pull down, okay? One thing that is important when you're using a tile or whatever it is, you don't wanna end up with your ink all spread out because you're gonna end up drying out really quickly, okay? So I'm gonna make sure my plate's really well inked up, okay? I should be able to see a nice sheen to it. Hopefully you got it all. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna now open up my magazine, okay? Seems like a great page to do this on. I will put my plate down first, all right? Let me shift so you can see more of what we're doing. Okay, I'll put my plate down. Then I'm gonna take my paper, ooh, nice scratch paper, place it centered on the top, what I think is centered. Then I'm gonna fold and close my magazine. Then I'm gonna take my baron, okay? Baron and I are gonna go and press nice and smoothly over this. You can also use the back of like a wooden spoon if you ever happen to print make at home. The reason I don't wanna use my palm is I'll have uneven pressure. Maybe when you were in elementary school, you did this with your palm. That can work. However, you're just not gonna get the nice even pressure. If you are using the printing press to do this, this is a slightly different process, but same principle as applying an even amount of weight, okay? Now what I will do is I will carefully pull up my print from my plate, and I'll check and see what I have. So now how do I look at a proof, right? Once I've made my print, I need to make sure that it's doing what I want. So when I'm looking at this proof, I'm checking a couple things. First off, do I like where I have all my cuts done? Okay, can I see, are my stars cut deep enough? And typically, like right away, see this little guy? I know that I could go back and cut that deeper. Okay, same thing here. This guy totally got lost and I didn't even know it. So now I know it. Okay, so I'm first gonna assess and compare my plate to my proof. Where do I need to go back and carve? When I go back and carve, I need to do this without the ink on it. So I'm actually gonna go with warm water and just a soft brush and quick remove all of it, or even with my hand, okay? And I'm gonna take away all that ink before I start carving again. The other thing I can look at here is because this is so light, right? This actually tells me I didn't have enough ink on my plate when I did this. So I can even lather it up, if you will, a little bit more. So what I could choose to do right in this moment is to actually make one more proof just to even test my inking abilities before then I go back and fix this up. That way I really know where I stand with this. Okay, so I've got my plate inked up just a little bit more. Do one final thing. I think a part of it too, that last time I wasn't working really fast when I did this. And really once you start placing your ink, you gotta go a lot faster than what I was doing, okay? So again, put it in my magazine, put my piece of scratch paper down, centered on top. Okay, close my paper, take my lovely Baron. Baron and I, we're gonna go over it a couple times. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Ooh, it's just sliding all around. Okay, one thing I could try and do is actually cover up my whole magazine. There we go, just a little more pressure. Bonus points if you know who that is. You cheat if you just saw that it was Arnold Palmer. Okay, so then again, I peel away carefully. One thing to note that I did not say before, when you peel, please pull only from one corner, okay? The other thing you're gonna wanna make sure, do not have ink on your hand. So my left hand, the one that's inking up, okay? I'm actually gonna pull with my right hand. The worst thing in the world is if this is one of my final copies or final editions, and I go, notice, precariously close there, but if I pull and I have ink on my hands, I've just now ruined that front side, okay? So now let's see how this came out with a little bit more ink, okay? So now I can compare my two proofs. See my first one, too light of ink. This one here now, I can go, okay, this might have been a spot where my previous ink was starting to dry a little bit more and left that kind of texture. Same thing in here, not necessarily that it went too light, probably more so that I had some previous stuff starting to dry on me there too, okay? Again, I'm looking for any area that I need to go back and carve. Do I see all the snow on my trees? Do I see all my stars? My answer is no, so I'm gonna go back and carve my stars a little deeper. Fine tune anything else that I wanna do. Now, when I've gotten to the point where I'm ready to work at this stuff, so I might just sign this LB proof. Okay, remember if this were my final ones for my final editions here, what I would be doing is I'd sign, get all fancy, okay? We're gonna leave a nice even border and say I make 10 copies of this, 1 of 10 for each edition, okay? Additionally, when I am ready to pull my final print, you are gonna wanna be very, very careful about making sure you center this as much as you can, okay? So if you feel confident in your ability to eyeball, kudos to you, but really you are gonna wanna make sure that you place it very carefully. Some ways you could do it where you actually place your paper first and flip your print on part of it. However, you also run the risk of getting a lot more ink onto your hands and just a lot more chemicals and oils from your hands getting onto your plate, which we want to try and avoid. So this is just one over and go from there. All right, happy printing. Once I know that I am totally done printing for the day or even just for a little bit, I really need to make sure that this roller ends up clean. I cannot convey to you how important that is. If you have paint that dries on here, downside is that if I have a piece of dried paint on here, when I actually roll my plate, that will be stuck on there and therefore affect how clean it comes off on my plate. So please, please, please make sure that you wash this with warm water while it is still wet with ink. Same thing here, take the time to scrape it off. If you have a lot more prints that you're gonna need to do and you feel like your ink is starting to travel, if you just simply take a thick little square of mat board, you can actually scrape it back up to the top and have it kind of rejoin there too. So food for thought on that one, but please do make sure that you get everything spick and span really quickly after you've used it too.